Got a wonderful presentation next, yes?
We do. So we'll
Terrific. Would you
bring
like
Dr. Perrone to the podium to introduce our presentation for this evening, and we're very excited about it.
Good evening, everyone. As we've worked through the design process and the building process of the new school, we had questions as we looked at curriculum and we looked at spaces, and the architects kept saying there's schools out there that are building, they're ahead of you on the schedule, and you could probably call them and go visit. And we called many schools and had some success visiting, but one school really went above and beyond, and that was Minnechaug Regional High School. Principal Stephen Hale's not here this evening. He has his own school committee meeting to attend. But he sent Gary Manuel, who is the team leader for the tech department, and 3 students, Mason Kennedy, Doug Gibbs, and Will Dieterich. And we really appreciate them being here tonight. And Ms. Gilfeather and I have visited Minnechaug on the first iteration of a visit, and they were very welcoming and really gave us a lot of information. And it led us to say, hey, we need to visit again. And so they opened the door for us one more time and hosted us and provided lunch. And they've just gone above and beyond the call to this night, where they've agreed to do a presentation about their curriculum and robotics and engineering and the way they do things at Minnechaug. And it's really sparked our interest in what's going on there and taking that and tailoring it to what we're going to do here and meet the needs of our students in our new building. So I really appreciate you being here, appreciate all your hospitality when we were there, and I invite you to come up and talk about what you brought. Thank you very much.
All right. Do we need to move? Are they going to?
Do you think it would be better if we shifted? Would you guys be more comfortable rather than having an audience in front and behind, being on this side facing that way? Would that work for you?
Thinking in terms of the cameras too.
But we'll shift out there.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that? I thought if you had everybody out there, that would be better.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, that was not this. Yes. That's more you guys.
Yeah, I actually, I live in knowledge of it, but I can cover it. What we have here is a mix of various programs that we're running at Minnechaug Regional High School. We have a robotics program that we run after school. We also do have it in school as a class in electronics and robotics, but not to this degree. This is a FTC, which is a FIRST Robotics, and it's a national competition. A lot of time, these students, these 3 are all involved with it. They spend an average of 3 to 4 hours a week for about 20 weeks to get to this level where they can actually compete at a national level. We've competed. This year we competed at 2 events in Massachusetts.
And last year was 3.
Last year 3, we actually competed at a New England championship. This year we struggled a little bit with the actual controllers. They weren't communicating very well with the...
We won't talk about our first competition.
But the actual robot did very well, but the Samantha module, which controls the remote controller, didn't communicate very well, so we had a lot of issues with it.
Yeah, a lot of issues with wiring and such.
Samantha threw a temper tantrum.
But I want to get into some of the other things. Like in the tech design class, we do the design process, which is part of the tech and engineering, which is the state frameworks. A couple of the activities we do is the bridge building competition, and then we do one of the last ones at the end of the semester is the model homes, where they design a 1,000-square-foot home. And with shrinking budgets, these are projects that don't break the bank. Like the bridges, it's about $80 for a class to do a whole class worth of bridges. The model homes, I would say maybe $80 to $100, and you can do 24 to 26 homes. So it's really not expensive, and that's why we, like everybody else, we're dealing with tight budgets, and these were activities that we felt, still inspire the students to think outside the box, and we become more the facilitator, and they're the ones that are thinking of what they need to do. And it's worked well, and they can speak to this a little bit. Doug has had the class.
Yeah, I'm currently taking the class where we design the bridges and do the house design. Currently we're on the house design, and I have to say I've learned just a lot from the single project. we've pretty much gone over how to draw floor plans, elevations, and drawing the floor plans I had a lot of fun with because we have pretty much open ground to do whatever we want with the house. It just has to meet these set requirements that he gives us. And it's just great to do. I like doing it.
And they realize that a bed doesn't fit in a 6x8 room. When they want to have that big Nintendo room.
And like Mr. Manu said, this is a very cheap and fun project where we hook up some weights to it. I believe this year we got to 86 pounds for one of these bridges, just holding on.
And they weigh less than an ounce.
Wow.
It's better than some of our real ones.
So they held up to 86 pounds, and the funnest part is watching these things break. Once it's fun. You hear the entire class cheer as you see hours of your work just go into pieces.
Another class that we do run is the computer-aided drafting and design. It's an AutoCAD program, and all three of them have done projects. These are their final projects. There's Mason's. What we do is with the AutoCAD, because it's such an intense program that really the first semester, because we have half-year courses, the first semester is really learning this up. First term, rather. First term is learning all of the commands and getting familiar with the software. Mm-hmm. And then for about 6 weeks of the second term, which is their final project to do, it's an open-ended, once again, project that they can decide on whatever they want to build or draw. And they can all speak to how grandiose they have ideas of what they want to do in 8 weeks until they start figuring out, I'm not going to get through all these drawings and all the measurements. And that's all part of the learning curve, because I let them do it knowing that they can't complete it. Mm-hmm. And then that last week they're going, I got 30 drawings and I'm still not done. Are you going to give me a bad grade because I didn't finish it?
One kid wanted to do a tank. Mr. Manning wouldn't let that one go through.
Well, we all chose very different projects. Mason did was it a wheel lock?
The inner workings of a wheel lock rifle. It's it was made by a watchmaker after the old flintlock muskets, but before modern guns. So it's got an ingenious design on the inside, and it just has this cycling wheel that does all the inner workings. Found out that each individual part on the inside is different.
Doug, what did you do?
I chose the robot because I am what you call circle challenge. I could not draw circles to save my life for some reason. And I was out probably 14 days that semester due to sickness. But I ended up choosing this project because I ended up working on how to be good at making gears, and I made the entire parts. And it came down to near the end where I couldn't finish the entire robot. So I had to settle for drawing the entire front of the robot, which was fun in itself, and I got good at drawing circles.
And then I did an E-Machines laser mouse, which the only thing I learned from that is it's really hard to measure something that's made of just plastic, really thin plastic, and really it's just round. It's ergonomic, so it's really hard to measure all of it.
You got really good at drawing parts.
But there are a lot of kids in our class. One kid did a carburetor. Another Garrett did he did a remote control. Scott Davis did a circuit board type of thing. Was it?
And we had one do a pencil sharpener.
Mm-hmm.
Even that, to finish the pencil sharpener, the parts.
And then Frank tried to do a snowboard.
Yeah.
Tried.
I think he got done one shoe.
Not one shoe, probably.
They just don't realize how many parts are in creating something like this. To actually draw all the drawings for this, you would be talking somewhere between 150 and 250 drawings.
Right. I think for that, I just got done all the main parts, the gears, and I didn't even get on to drawing the nuts and the bolts. I think I drew one nut, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And
But
then
it's
I
a
was
learning curve. I mean, they realize now, I guess it does take longer than they thought to produce a car. And that's why you don't get a new car every 6 months.
So that your responsibility in this CAD program is to actually create a drawing for every single component of whatever you chose, whether it would be a
Correct.
gun or
Yes.
the robot.
The
Sorry?
assembly.
I said correct.
The assembly of that product.
Right, and then also the instructions about how it would go together.
No, not so much the instructions, but it's more of the doing the visual part of it and completing a orthographic drawing. 3 different views of the object.
So do you end up taking it, when you described before, I apologize, is it Mason?
Yes.
That you did the gun?
Mhm.
Is that, do you sort of unpack?
Yes.
And so we
Yes.
see the parts sort of before they would all
We made
go
it
together?
visual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I actually's got a copy, we can see it. This one, flip it.
It's good, because I have I know of a 10-year-old at home who's watching, who's going to want to see all about it. Very excited at the prospect.
Show them the parts list.
Most of the kids in the class brought in the objects. He obviously didn't, but
Yeah. You can't really bring one of these to school.
But I got lucky online. I found it was a list of the parts that were included, so I could then use those parts, replicate them, dimension them. So I got around the not being able to bring firearm to school.
Good decisions. Good.
So, I mean, I have the parts list, and it's just a simple drawing of each part. And then going on, here's one part. This part took 3 drawings because it was so complicated.
Wow.
That's just the front faceplate. So these are all just different views. And then just going on, like that's a simple one. Just going along all different parts, what each dimension is and everything. So it's a really time-consuming process, but it is also very satisfying because then later on you look and say, wow, I just drew all of those pieces and now I actually have an understanding of how everything works.
I think you also kind of realize what it would be like to work in the field of computer-aided drafting and such, because if you could think it's very tedious, or you could think it's very fun to take something apart and dimension it and see what goes into it really. But that's all we have to talk about really about the CAD program.
So tell us about where in your programming in the department is the CAD program. So in other words, have you done a lot of preliminary courses before you get to the CAD program? Do some people start right out in the CAD program?
Well, some people may need, some people who are not too computer literate may need, what's the class you took?
Microsoft Office one. It kind of just walks them through on how to use all the Office programs. So when Mr. Manuel asks you to type up the answers to this in the book, they'll be able to do it. I'm taking that currently. It just kind of goes over Excel and everything, and it also gets you, more familiarized with the computer.
Yeah,
So-
some people may need it, but other than that, there's no prerequisite courses. You're taught everything you need to know about CAD to do your work along the way.
Yeah, but I
recommend that they take the tech design, which Doug is taking now.
Yeah.
Because of the way the course offering went this year, he had his CAD course before he had his tech design class.
Right.
But it didn't hurt him, in the
No.
long run. But now I think he has a greater appreciation of how much time CAD can save you in reworking drawings. It's not in the actual first time drawing, but if you have to rework something and start all over, you can click lines in AutoCAD and say, all right, I want to move this line here.
A really good example of that is I was looking at my floor plan for my house I had just drawn. I brought it home and I kind of stayed up late because I put it off to, like a normal teenager does. I just put it off to the last minute, till about 2 in the morning, late minute. But I had looked at my floor plan. I was like, what did I do with these dimensions? And the thing is, if I was to erase all that, it looked smudgy, it wouldn't look good. I want to give them a nice clean paper at the end.
Right.
Because I like doing that. And so I ended up redrawing my entire floor plan again, where in AutoCAD you don't have to worry about anything. You just have to click and delete a button, hit the delete button.
Yeah.
Simple.
Some of the other programs that we offer, or one of the other programs we offer, is the Tech and Engineering, which I know many of you are interested in, because that is our course that we offer to 9th and 10th grade students for an MCAS test instead of a science biology. Some of the projects that we brought tonight is this one right here, which is the deck, which is a construction project. We have the hydraulics, which is another area of study that the students do. And we have the, what do they call it? What's it called?
Monster truck.
Monster trucks, which is, they create actually their own vehicle, and then there's a track that they have to go through, and the vehicle has to make it through. So that's our transportation unit. And what he does in that class, there's two of them that teach it. There's 5 areas of study that they cover in the 20 weeks or 18 weeks. So the units are much longer. Like when I do the houses, it's about 2 to 3 weeks. That's probably the longest one. The bridges is about a week and a half. These units are all 4 or 5 weeks, and it's a little more in depth. But it still covers the same design process. I cover it in the tech design class, but not at the level that he does prepare them, or the two of them prepare them for MCAS. And this year we have about 185 students taking the MCAS in tech and engineering. We have more than biology.
And Gary, I was really so impressed when you were talking about that when I visited. And can you talk a little bit about how successful students are being in that as an option? And you mentioned that some are taking it, and I think it's very important to mention that you at Minnechaug are on a block schedule,
Yes.
kind of a 4x4, similar to us, which is another reason that we were so interested in sharing ideas. And in that process of the instructional technology, in regard to the tech engineering, how many students are taking the test and how successful you're finding?
This year we have 8,500, almost 190 students taking the course. We have about 165 taking
the test.
the MCAS.
Some as 9th graders and
Some as 9th graders and some as 10th, yes. The majority are actually 9th graders. And then what we do is the 2 weeks leading up to, or the 3 weeks prior to the tech and engineering test, we have an after-school course that we run 2 days a week, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, our late days.
Mm-hmm.
And we offer to the students, you can basically go through your classes and see which ones we're really struggling going through, and then offer them a little more
Support. Great.
And in the last 3 years that we've ran it, or 3 or 4 years, I think we've had 6 students not pass it the first time. And we probably had over 500 take it.
And it's important for people to note that that passing that test takes care of the obligation by the
Science.
state for the science MCAS, which is a requirement for graduation.
Yeah.
And I believe you took it?
Yeah,
And
I never took the
I've been
biology
exceedingly
MCAS.
well on it.
Yeah, I scored advanced in it.
I think
quite-
Mason's the only one that took the biology. right?
Yeah, I took the bio because I took my technology and engineering one. I took it as a sophomore, and I had already taken the bio one. So that was just the way the classes worked.
So it's just giving your students another option,
Yes.
biology or
Yeah.
this.
You can also take both MCASs if you so choose. My older brother did that and scored advanced in both of them. He actually did very well.
Great.
Can I explain how these
Yeah,
work?
the
'Cause
hydraulics, yeah.
I never took this class, but I had a friend who was in it. The goal of this construction is to pick up. I'm not sure what size of the ball it was, but it was a ball, and the goal is to use hydraulics with pipes attached to them and use them to pick up the ball and move the arm and put them in a bin. And so you can see these students used a lot of different things, strings to rotate the arm, and this person had like a claw type of thing, this person a bucket, and basically Dr. McCarthy was the person last year.
Oh, both him and Dr. Radcliffe.
Yeah.
Mr. Radcliffe.
He basically left them to their own devices to construct something like this, and after maybe a couple days of mumbling and grumbling about how they don't know what to do, they finally got around to making something like this. And of course, it only takes like a few syringes, a few of these, and then a little bit of wood. So it's not exactly the most expensive project. Of course, those two beat it. I mean, this is, what is it, styrofoam and marker?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
what is it,
the
like
students
$5 a
actually
piece?
provide all the markers, and you can see they get quite detailed when they're doing this. All the furniture is to scale in the house. And they actually,
Which one's the Nintendo room again?
This one where it says CNN in there. Well, I think the parents took.
Biggest room.
Biggest
Yeah. You can hide that from my 10-year-old. You can put that back.
But like I said, with the shrinking budgets, these are creative ways to stretch your dollar. Most of the material here, the wood, we actually take all the scraps from the wood classes for the year and we put them off to the side, and that's what the students use to actually produce this. So we don't go out and buy any extra wood for that.
Recycle, reuse?
Yeah, same with this one. Bad pieces of wood from Wood Tech. I know because I've taken the class and I've cut some of the boards for this. I thought Mr. Petzel would cut some of them, but we basically just run it through, and maybe like one of the boards that we get, which is like 10 feet by about 1 foot.
Yeah, 12.
It basically makes like 2 of these decks. It's really, it's just it's such a little amount of material to go, and you go into this much detail all across beams and such.
And then also, if you've seen the
Yes.
foam underneath,
Yes.
they also do some testing of the R values to see how well it actually is, the insulation factor, and they get into that also.
That was at one of my visits
Yes.
there. They were doing just that, and they had the heat lamps
heat
and
lamps,
everything else. I
yeah.
mean, it was really very interesting to see how the students were doing the science involved in them.
We originally did houses.
Yeah, I remember doing the house.
Yeah, they
It was-
originally built like
it
a
was,
house.
I mean, like, they weren't big, it was probably about the size of this, but what we had to do is we had to build a house, and you had to, of course, build it, you had to insulate it, and what happened was the teacher would put a thermometer inside, and he'd have 3 big heat lamps on it, and see how long it would stay at a cool temperature, while the heat lamps were blasting it.
Mr. Ronicolin's one.
So, I'm sorry, somebody
What
had their
year
hand.
are you this year?
I'm a senior.
I'm also a senior.
And I'm a junior.
Okay, so you two are graduating, right?
Yeah.
Are you going on to study any of this next year, or?
I'm going into electrical engineering.
All
So
right.
I'm going to environmental engineering.
Okay.
I'm going into plumbing. How you guys
That's another term for environmental engineering.
So one of the questions
You're
that
gonna
comes
handle
up.
one end of it.
One of the questions that comes up sometimes, and I think I talked to you gentlemen one of the visits I had, was about moving from what we might call a traditional wood shop, metal shop, making the cutting boards to the clocks to the whatever, to moving towards some of this kind of work that perhaps we won't be meeting the needs of all students. That perhaps this is going to be to have too much of an academic factor to it, to entice students and allow students to be successful. How would you address that concern that people might have?
Well, I feel that this class is actually made for the kids who don't really do the academics. Really, these classes are more aimed towards kids like me, because I know my freshman year, I wasn't an A student. I was actually pretty bad. And at the end of the year, I got into this class, and I noticed after taking this class, I found something that I loved, and there was a dramatic change in my grades and everything. It was partly because I had a great teacher, and we did fun things that got me interested, and I learned so much from just tech and engineering that it brought me over to AutoCAD, and I joined the robotics next year. A lot of fun with that. I mean, it just really sparked my interest in learning. So I feel that these classes are great for kids who aren't really necessarily into doing all the biology, all the math. This is actually a fun way to almost incorporate a little bit of math, how to read a ruler, which is a big deal.
So I think the question I was going to ask that would probably be the precursor to that, I'm just curious about what drew you 3 boys to signing up for these courses.
well, when I
It's the abuse we give them.
Yeah.
For
They're
the
going to be
most part,
polite.
it was my older brother had taken the tech and engineering course, and he said that it exempted you from having to take the biology MCAS. And so I figured, well, I'm not really that good at science, so might as well give this a shot. And well, when I gave it a shot, it got better. You know,
It turns out you're good at science.
It's a different kind of science.
Different
Yeah.
kind of science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I want you to understand that we have a school of about 1,100. This year we had 560 students sign up for technology courses, business courses, and, well, actually, just the technology courses, 560 students signed up for next year. We had to turn away about 150.
Yeah, so sounds like a successful program.
It's,
So
it's growing in
crowded,
popularity,
yeah.
that's for sure.
And I know I was at, I guess I could say the opposite end of the spectrum. I was all doing like the honor science courses, the AP, like I'm in AP physics right now. But these classes, it does have that academic factor that you learn stuff, but it's a much different type of learning. It's a lot more hands-on, and it really draws your attention more. And it's almost a nice break from okay, I'm going to sit at a desk, look at the board, write down notes, take a test.
Right, the books versus the application.
This is
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of kids
After-
learn way better
And
this
typically
way.
in our classes, after the first term, the second term, it becomes more where the facilitator and the students become the thinkers and the producers. And it works out well.
How about you?
Well, my father is an auto mechanic, and I always looked up to my father, and I noticed I wasn't very good in the other classes, so I decided to give this a shot, and I got pretty good at it, I guess.
Yes, very apparently you got very good.
I've taken, I think, a total of, maybe 4 or 5 classes now in this department. So next year I'm taking like 3 or 4 more.
Yeah, after
I'm
that,
stuck with him 2 blocks next year. It's okay.
After
You'll
that-
love me eventually.
After that first semester of me taking technology and engineering, I just kind of ended up taking electronics, robotics, and then wood shop, and now there's only one room in that wing that I've never had a class in. So I've just run that program out for all it's worth.
Sounds good. I'm signing up. Do you have any?
Night
girls?
courses will
Do
be
you have
on
any
there.
girls?
That's another thing I've noticed. It's actually become more popular with
With the girls?
with the girls
Yes.
since
Yes, I have.
Yes.
in my tech and engineering class, which was 4 years ago with Mr. Melnick. There were no girls in that class. There were like 3 classes of that, and there were 2 girls in 1 class, and that was it. And now there's
About 1/3 of the tech and engineering courses.
Okay.
Between 1/3 and 1/2 in various classes, but about 1/3 of the total tech and engineering.
So there was 2 in our class, basically.
The robot,
Just 2.
the AutoCAD classes usually have 2 or 3. When I started, we had very rarely saw.
Yeah.
But it's growing within the department.
And Gary, just last piece, how did you develop your curriculum? In other words, is this, do you have like a
Many
textbook, or do you, what drives your curriculum activities?
Most of it is driven by the state, obviously, everybody knows that they give you the guidelines. But we're fortunate that most of the people in my department have 15 years of experience in teaching, at least. And we continuously go to different conferences and look at new things that are out there, and we're constantly ordering new books to see. In our department, we really don't, other than the AutoCAD, we don't have a typical textbooks that we use on a day-to-day basis. As you can see, most of ours are handouts that we produced ourselves. And we may have saw something else that we liked, and then we put our own little spin on it.
Yeah, for like tech and engineering, there wasn't much paperwork, maybe some drawings and such. But other than that, most of the class was just building things and getting graded on them. And then like electronics, we did a lot of math work, but there was a lot of circuit boards as well.
Yes.
And on top of that, in wood shop, you have 3 projects that are student driven that you choose yourself. So you have like maybe 6 weeks of you working on something that you chose to work on, that you're going to take home and use in your own home.
But you start off by doing, we start off in the wood classes by doing a mass production,
Yeah.
where we teach the students to use all the machines in the class. it's, believe it or not, it is a clock, but the process to build that clock allows the students access to almost every machine in the shop so that they have familiarity and comfort with it before they go on to doing their own project.
There's one part I would like to actually add to the tech and engineering. When we were taking the class, not only did we learn about all the, the things that took place in the house and all, we also learned about how companies do, mark up their products, about how, you start off with just a little pile of lumber, and how do you get up to this, and this is why it costs so much, and you understand the entire process, which I thought.
And
Good
value.
learning.
Your question?
Yeah, so do most students move from perhaps the wood tech classes into the tech and engineering?
No,
or
actually,
progress that way?
our introductory course, or what we have, our largest numbers are in ninth grade, are in the tech and engineering, and because of the various areas that are explored in that allows the students to branch out into graphics, the tech design, which is the drafting. We also have the CAD, and then we also have computer science that students also, and then if they like working with the wood, then the wood class, we offer a wood 1 only. This year we actually have a wood 2, but usually our signups are so high that we can never offer the wood 2. It's just not enough teachers.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I think we've explained everything we've really came here to explain. Unless anyone has
If
any
you have more
questions.
questions.
If you have any more questions regarding the
And
FTC.
you're more than welcome to come next year when we're in the new building and see what we
We'd love
have
to
going
do
on.
that.
You're more than welcome for a visit.
The robotics class you have now
It's
is
electronics.
electronics
lab.
robotics.
Yeah, so we start out the year where they learn about electronics and what makes this work. And they learn about, circuitry. And then we go into, in electronics and robotics 1, we use a different program, a different kit. It's the gears, which is it's very durable. I think I
Right, yeah.
Right.
that people. Very, very durable, and we've had it now for about 7 years, and the only thing that's worn out are the batteries, and other than losing parts. But this is a little more delicate
Yeah.
than the
A
gears.
Just a little.
And that's the after-school
This is the
program.
Lego. Yeah, but actually in the electronics and robotics too.
Yeah, kids who are in the club can also work on this.
We're
Oh,
doing
okay.
Legos in that class. And next year, I think, will be the last year that we actually do any electronics and electronics too. It'll be strictly robotics. We're going to be phasing into a complete program. It'll be robotics 2, and it'll be just with the Legos, and that'll give students more time, other than after school, to work on that FTC.
Great.
Because that is such a big program, and I don't, the hours, you could go endless amount of hours if you really,
There's been times we've taken this home, and it's a lot of fun just to build with your friends, and it's just great to think of ideas. We've gone home, and the night before the competition, since we hadn't really gotten much done for some reason, we will stay up till 5 in the morning and say, okay, time to work.
Yeah,
It's only happened twice.
We've pulled some last year, the crazy all-nighter that we pulled to get this thing working, and
Red Bull all day.
that was slept on the way there and the way back. It's not just about being in a club and or trying this for academic reasons. You just really want to see this thing work, and you want to see it do what it's meant to do.
Yeah, and one of the most upsetting things to see is either a tire pop off while in the mid game, or just have those things not work up top.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a competition in which basically our robot didn't work for maybe a single match, and it was horribly depressing. But after that, we went home and we were like, we can do this. We can make this thing work next time. And then we came back and everything was working. Everything was fine. We had a great time.
Yeah.
Except for the wheels getting thrown off.
Besides that, and being the driver, the main driver, it's, like you said, it's pretty frustrating when it doesn't work the way you want it to. But when it actually works and when everything comes together, it's a great experience. Just being able to have a controller in your hand and going, and it's moving and doing what you told it to, and then you think, wow, we just built this thing from scratch.
Yeah.
we built this, we put that part there, and now it's moving. It's just, it sounds kind of childish, but it's actually.
Let us know.
Well, I just want to say this was a fascinating presentation, and I am so impressed with you three young men and the presentation that you gave, your presentation skills, and what you've created. You know, it was an honor for us to have you come here, and you as well, Mr. Manuel, to tell us about your program. So thank you very much.
Very much.